Good with
I'm gonna get that next.
Diana because that's her.
Does she like us?
Oh my God, she loves. First of all, loves you.
I like her so much.
see?
Matt was like,
I feel like I'm.
Teddy's the sweetheart of the century.
Right?
And I was like, I know.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
And it's sponsored by Nespresso and RBC. And in fact, Nespresso, we're here with Xavier Durand, the filmmaker behind the movie. Out of a number of young auteurs, he has the most awards at the Cannes Film Festival.
Woo.
Quite easily. His mommy,
Good morning.
Good morning.
his mommy in 2014 took the jury prize, and It's Only the End of the World in 2016 took the ecumenical jury prize and the Grand Prix. We have Tandy Newton, two-time, and Emily. And Emily plays Amy Bosworth on how this all began, because there are definitely pieces of you in this film.
Yeah, a lot of pieces. I mean, there are always, I guess, pieces of me in the film that I've made so far. I don't know any other way of writing. It always feels very close to home, and then obviously there's part of romance also where not romance, but you have to start from yourself and then create something else. But I guess that what really resonates with my life here is there was also the desire to address the situation in the industry about what place we give and what opportunities we give to LGBT, well, the queer community, and what it is to try and be yourself, especially through social media, reshape and redefine their career and their opportunities. I think so, and I think that part of them even knows that, knowing that, well, you might be you will probably be pigeonholed as a gay or actor, and I think that is the problem we try to address in the film.
Working with Jacob, he was wonderful in Room.
Of course, very, very mature, but he remains a child, and who's very playful and curious and witty and funny, very, very professional. But I grew up also as a child actor, so watching him evolve on set, there was a part of me, that was remembering, of course, what I had gone through to another scale. Of course, he's much more. He has other opportunities than I did back then. But he's I guess he's just a very healthy young person here too. He's just he's great, and his sensibility is amazing. There's nothing that he can do or isn't willing to understand. And there were emotions and notions in this film that were probably beyond his age, or anyway, I don't know how to say that, but yeah, experience and age. But he, nonetheless, he gave it his everything, and yeah, that was beautiful.
There's a wonderful moment in the beginning when he comes home and he watches the TV show and goes nuts over the. Oh, there's another spell, and was that you watching?
Yeah,
Like
That is
Buffy the
Xavier.
Vampire
Of course.
Slayer?
That is Xavier. Then and now.
Still is.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, I like I told you, I would really. I was sent to boarding school when I was like 8, and it was a beautiful experience actually. But back then I felt that all I had was these shows, these shows on the WB, the Roswell and Charmed and Buffy and Smallville and all these TV shows that with superheroes and people with special powers, and I felt, I don't know, that there was something soothing in the fact that these people had these powers, had this sort of a escape on reality and advantage in the way that they would use these powers. And I was just a kid, but and yeah, I would be exactly like Jacob in the movie. I would scream, and I would actually rip. That's what you call it. You rip these episodes with a satellite TV and a sort of very complicated device, put them into my computer, and then burn DVDs and then watch them again. I was crazy about them. And but the thing that I notice now is that as much as I dreamt of actually identifying and relating to these characters, I couldn't really, because they were all young teens that were all straight and living love stories that I really wanted to project myself in, but there was this sort of blockage. I couldn't really. And growing up, I realized that I was craving for a figure, a model, and that I was never given that. And I think that this is also a part of John F. Donovan is to address that lack, that need.
Did one of the celebrities you wrote to actually write you back? Like, no?
No.
For the cast.
Such is life. This is the film.
For the cast, what's wonderful in this movie is
in a way, he will like yell out something to do that he's thought of, and you just get, it's kind of like this jazz dance you're doing together.
Yeah,
But then,
it's very much like a dance. It's
yeah.
and also he's very aware, he makes you very aware of the apparatus itself, the camera. So often you have this like disconnect between the actual camera and yourself, and he doesn't treat you like a stupid performer. He treats you like a very intelligent person, aware that there is a machine right beside you. And often you're in dialogue with that machine. And then he's also there with you, kind of so actively engaged in everything that's happening. And again, often sometimes directors are far away behind a monitor, and he is so present, and he is so
do a lookbook done of everything in beautifully binded lookbook on all like great paper, and it's like something I want to sell because it's probably worth a lot now, but it's amazing. So everything, you are placed in this world that it was in his mind, and now he like lets you play in it, but with him. So
no sense of Xavier's superiority, which is quite, I think it's very confident to do that, because people could step in and assume a certain power there. And I think I've found in the 3 decades I've been acting that there is a real hierarchy that tends to be set up in a film, and the director, there is a kind of subservience that one feels to the director, who tends to keep things back from you, partly because there isn't the time to share. Whereas with Xavier, there was just this the equilibrium of everybody, and there was no hierarchy at all. We were all sharing, and we would change things on set. I mean, I was particularly lucky in a way, because my stuff came right at the very end of the movie, where these guys had pretty well shot the whole film. I hadn't met any of you, and it was just myself and Ben, and we had this wonderful 3 days in Prague where the film was basically done. Shooting, we would go and smoke in his room and talk and change stuff, and like if I had ideas, I know, it was so lovely. Ideas, we could share them, and it was, and I think that comes with great confidence and a really profound sense of what he wants. And because Xavier's very confident and really knows what he wants and loves what he's doing, he doesn't need to make you feel subservient. He doesn't need to a film like it that I've ever experienced. It's a total love fest.
Yeah.
I concur with what these guys have said. I think what you said, Emily, about like the thing that strikes me is that I was working with an actor. That someone who has a lot of experience of being in front of the camera, and is a very and that's I've never worked with anyone with more passion.
No, never. Some people think that when you work with an auteur, that there's going to be this like tyrannical relationship in your own work, which is really special.
Yeah.
The other thing,
sorry.
sorry. The other thing is your crew, the people you work with.
Yeah.
Like it's sometimes you can walk onto a film set and it feels like a group of people who've been brought together, whereas this felt like a family that have worked together, because they have on all of your films, and that makes a big difference. I think the people you've assembled around you are brilliant.
Yeah. But also, when Tandy talking about the equality there's this equality on the set that I particularly felt being in my first scene with Kit and Susan Sarandon, or like all these. This is a movie filled with stars, and yet on set, the star was the work. Like nobody was a bigger fish than the other person. When you were on camera, your work, it was either you were a star because your work was great, or it wasn't good enough, and you'll do it again. But it was there was always that. Everyone was an equal in just bringing your best.
It's an interesting. It was always an interesting part to play, because he's a young man, a TV star in an incredibly popular TV show. So it wasn't far from me. Alone in a hotel room looking out the window. I actually think that the story is about a young TV star, and it is about it is about being a gay man in the industry, and it's all those things. But it's also about his private life, who he is alone when he's not left alone.
Except with the letters.
Yeah.
And that's what's so profound, is these letters to this stranger, a child, are more pure than anything else. That's what's, it's a fantasy, like the fact that you defend the letters or don't defend the letters, you're literally, it's your life that it's just such an amazing metaphor, the letters.
One of the things that I interview going and winds up getting a lot out of her
But what a
subject.
stupid cow to start with, though. I mean, Jesus Christ, like so judgmental. But judgmental.
He's very arrogant as well. I mean, they're both.
I love how you're defending her, you sweet thing. I know. I mean, and it's funny because I wanted to. I always try to love the character that I'm playing, no matter who they are, even if it's Condoleezza Rice. Didn't manage with that one, but but she judges. These judgments are very dangerous. You know, there's assumptions that you make about someone, and that's a lot of what the movie's about too. Is about the assumptions we make about people. So. Yeah, but I'm glad you identified with her as a journalist. I obviously did my research quite well.
I will not spoil the ending. But I will, one of the things I do want to ask you is it open for interpretation? Is that the way that you intended it? And we could talk in generality.
No.
Okay.
Not really.
Because the reason why I bring this up is because
We're talking about the very, very end.
yeah,
The
because
last
I've
scene.
talked with a number of journalists and we've all come away with our different theories on things.
Okay. For, not for me, but then that's also the beauty of it, is that the beauty of films is that you appropriate yourself of whatever you see and decide what exactly it means to you or what you want it to be. I almost want to say maybe I hadn't realized that it was actually an open end, but no, to me this movie is about the legacy of a man who could never live his life as he wanted and as he should have, with integrity and being authentic and true to himself. And so the film is about his legacy to a young admirer who years later recollects this epistolary relationship, because they never actually meet in person. And that's not to spoil anything, because we know that in the very beginning that Donovan and his younger pen pal Jacob Tremblay, Rupert Turner, never met in person. They just exchanged letters, and it's about his legacy to this young admirer who years later has not exactly the same life, but who's just not going to make the same mistakes, and who apparently is very comfortable with who he is, and very confident as well. And this is also part of the clash with that journalist to begin with, is that he's very confident about his story. And confidence is something that people who are, I think, insecure don't forgive. It's something that bothers you, and something that seems that people mix up often with arrogance. And so this young man is very confident and feels quite free about who he is and quite comfortable in his own skin. And I think that by the end of the movie, there are things about himself that you could only hazard a guess on and really not confirm, but by the final shot of the film, you know for a fact something about him. And the journalist realizes this as he leaves. And I think that what she's left with is inspiration for, or hope that people before them have lived with. So there's no ambiguity for me with people, wherever that is. It's just the moment has come to discuss and talk, and just the conversations I've had in the past 24, 48 hours have been really inspiring, because I spent a lot of time with a lot of people, and I'm of course here, and a sort of tribute to the films I adored and worshipped as a kid, big commercial films like Titanic or Jumanji or The Secret Garden or so I think that TIFF is the right place for us to premiere, and I'm really excited about tonight. Really nervous too.
Before I go to the next audience question, is it true that sometimes you'll start writing when you're editing?
Yeah.
That's how do you? It's really interesting. It's a wonderful creative process, because sometimes some folks it's like, okay, I'm going to get
dialogue, cut some things that we find superfluous, work really on the field, and together create something that we're proud of and that we love. And then editing is already another stage of that creative process that's, like I said, more lonely and more technical. There is no improv. You don't improv. You don't. Everything is already played for you, and you just gotta. The cards have been dealt, and you just have to put things in order and make some big choices. Yes, but there's a lot of loneliness in there, and so the excitement is not as palpable as when you're on set or when you're preparing to be on set. So by the end of a film is generally the moment where I start wondering, well, creatively, what's next? Otherwise, I feel that, and also knowing what's next creatively gives me the energy to complete the journey on the previous work, on the previous film. These films feed each other, and the energy circulates, as opposed to being stuck with one thing that you need to bring to a close, and yeah, that's always how I've worked.
Yes.
Hi, Patricia from Health Canada. So we've talked already.
For me, it's just another story told in another language, and that is just the story that I wanted to tell next. I felt that I've been thinking about this film for a long, long time. I wrote and directed I Killed My Mother, and then I immediately started to think about a project that would talk about a correspondence between a very famous actor and a young admirer. I think back then I wanted something to evoke the work of Rainer Maria Rilke with Letters to a Young Poet, and so this had been an idea for a very long time that I had been living with without necessarily putting anything down on paper or taking any notes, or just living with it. And so it's not that at one point because I wrote it after Tom at the Farm, I felt that it's time for me to write my American debut. That's not how it. I've never really ambitioned to have an American debut. I am ambitioned to work with actors that I admire, but the destination and the whether it's in France or in Hollywood or I don't want to make it anywhere especially. I just want to work with people that inspire me, and this story had to.
Yes.
Vous avez à Radio-Canada, je pose la question de compte ou en réaction à son précédent. Est-ce que vous sentez que c'est...
Sur le plateau de Boy Erased, en fait, le film de Joe, l'écriture d'un film sur la conversion therapy, ça m'a énormément touché. Je me suis dit, moi aussi, j'ai envie d'écrire une histoire d'amour envers Donovan, ou pour revenir à la maison avec des... c'est juste comme ça, c'est l'histoire que j'avais envie d'écrire ensuite. Do you want me to say that in English now?
What was the question?
So my question was, sometimes it's said that we make a film against or...
No, but I understand, it's been a long process for Donovan, and people think because you are inspired to do so. And what really inspired me to write Matthias and Maxim wasn't Joel Edgerton, and it did touch me after Lawrence anyways. Why do your characters always have to be gay? And I said, I don't know, well, they've been straight for 100 years in a way that it stayed with me. And when I wrote Mommy, a lot of people told me, think about that aspect of my life. And when I saw these loves, and John F. Donovan obviously is interesting, I want to be part of that group of people. They inspire me, and so that's the only reason why I wrote Matthias and Maxim. And now it is happening at a very interesting time, because it's true that after this premiere and this festival, I'll be going back to that shooting, which will be very different from John F. Donovan. But the movie was never written in response to that, in reaction to that.
Yes.
You've really assembled an all-star cast here, all of whom are in TV shows I love, including Kelly's Grace. Question is, have you watched a lot of these TV shows, and is that how you chose to cast these roles, or what was the casting process like? These actors on the stage, and also the actors who aren't with us.
I don't know Sarah and Emily from these. Well, we shot these. We shot this film before.
Before I shot
Right.
Alias Grace.
Yeah, and I think that you had.
Yeah, but we've known each other.
We've known each other for a long time. We shot in Good Neighbors together, film by Jacob Tremblay, who co-wrote this, and we've known each other for a very long time. She had a small part in Lawrence, anyways, also, which I mean, it's.
We've always wanted to well, I've always wanted to work with
Me too,
Xavier,
yeah.
and but I don't speak French well enough to be in one of his films. But also so long that I still have these Skype sessions where he would read to me pages that he'd written for this movie and play a score with it, and like every time he'd written something. So this has been. I remember when it was about kind of letters to a young poet inspired, and this has been going on in his head for a while. So, but we've known each other for a long time.
And for Kit, I didn't know him from Game of Thrones. Really, I had seen Testament of Youth, and can I say it?
Yeah.
I had seen Pompeii. I had seen that in a plane and on a plane, and we met. We Skyped together, and we met when we met in Italy, and it was really about the human dynamic more than his work in Game of Thrones. And I'd seen you in Crash, and had been in love since then. Yes, it's true. Well, I mean, Susan, Kathy Bates have been personal heroes since I was so. No, it's not really you. I don't remember exactly what your question was. Was it that I described? Sorry.
Just the casting in general and how you picked out.
Yeah, I just really went for the people that I either knew and admired, or didn't know and admired still, and really was curious to work with. And I think that when you see performances that mark you, sometimes it can be intimidating, and you can feel that that person won't want to work with you, or that they're too important. But for me, it's actually quite the opposite. If I see a performance that I really adore, I'm like, oh, I have to work with this person. I have to work with her or him. So.
And I'm sure all the actors on the stage feel the same way working with you and seeing your films.
Well, I don't know, but we've had a lot of fun doing it.
Excellent. Well, that is Coffee with Creators, and this has been The Death and Life of John F. Donovan. See it here at TIFF. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
That girl who